This podcast is brought to you by Living Swell Studios. When you want to record your next hit, broadcast your next live stream, or just need a quiet space to edit your videos, Living Swell Studios can accommodate all your needs. Located in New Orleans, they're equipped with a rehearsal hall, print shop, photography space, and more. Living Swell is your one-stop shop to facilitating your vision. Let them fulfill your music and video dreams. Drew's putting it out there. Episode 11.
It's the clap. It
You
gets
love
me
that
every
clap.
time. It gets me.
Hey, what's happening, y'all? This is the Professor Drew Bayham coming at you with another episode. We back. I was gone. I tried to, just like other musicians try to do, we try to make this money. And so I'm back. And we have some, just one really, really good topic to talk about. And we're going to deep dive from that. So I'm glad y'all are back with us. So to my left, your right, here's the wondrous ambassador for this great city, which we're going to talk about. He's been on here multiple times, and I love the conversation. So big round of applause to Mr. Brice
Watch
Miller.
out. And he got some brown liquor for me, man.
Yes,
Look at that. Watch
sir.
out.
Dr. Brice Miller.
Monday.
Dr. Brice Miller.
Right?
Monday.
Address
blues.
me.
Hello, hello.
Starting the week.
Yes, indeed. On my right, your left. She's been on here a couple of times also, and I love her colored commentary. And so I'm like, man, she has to be a regular on here for as long as I can get on here. So a big round of applause for Nicole, y'all.
Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it.
And formerly the Al Heyman podcast, after that debacle, at the what was that, the weigh-in, huh?
It was like the weigh-in, the press conference, whatever.
Yeah.
Mayweather let him take his head up. Al Heyman, bro, you
not the Al Heyman?
Al Heyman dropped the ball, bro.
So he's not. So he's newly titled the Black Stan Smith.
On the USA.
Stan
Smith.
Big round of applause, Mr. Roast Beef Jenkins.
Yo, happy to be
Herb
here as
Doggy.
always. Thank y'all for always
Swerve
having me here.
Music himself.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. Let's get into the topic. Because I'm excited to talk about it. First of all, because we have seen the slow burn, for a while. And so it's just kind of like, it's interesting that everybody else, the 2 million, 3 million views. Yeah,
It's new to them.
Yeah, it's new to them. So it's a kind of a wonderful thing to talk about on a number of different factors. If y'all don't know who I'm talking about, Mr. Byron S. Cole, local activist, well-known cat in the city. But actually his mother was the one who was the big civil rights activist. Her name was Dion Cole. They call her Mama D. So this guy, Mr. Byron Cole, who I've been checking out for maybe about the last 5 years or something like that, with this group, the Fathers Advocacy.
And also the David Duke.
Yeah.
The David Duke thing in Jackson Square.
Exactly. So there was a block party that was going on around the corner from his house. And, he said he got calls from, a number of the neighbors, and it was like, there's something going on, bro. Like, do you know anything about it or whatever like that?
Right.
So he's like, no. He gets there and he sees that the car, somebody put their car. Well, in fact, let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. I think I got it wrong. There was the orange and white.
Sewage and water board.
Yeah, barricades. Was blocking the street. He went there to tell him.
With the car.
With the car, yeah. Well, no, she put the car in after, from what I heard. Like, so basically.
So nobody will go around.
So nobody will go around, yeah. So, no, actually, because Byron and somebody else was getting ready to move that barricade.
Oh, so she parked her car there, so it's like...
She parked, and so she put her car there.
Okay.
So she parked her car there to make sure that, the street's still blocked off. She didn't have a permit or anything like that. They're putting a block party for the festing in place, kind of celebration, jazz fest in place. And so from there, I'm more than sure that most of you that are watching this video or listening to this podcast know what ensued afterwards.
You told me what it.
it's something to watch. I'll tell you that. You know, the 13-minute video, the initial contact with this white woman, and just the initial trigger. And I think that's what, as we want to talk about, you know, also is that, you know, when you're dealing with people who have been living in these neighborhoods and have been a part of this for so long, the slightest thing will trigger them. And I think the thing that triggered him was the fact that she told him, well, look, you can go around.
Yeah, when she said you can go around the block.
Yeah, you can go
If you
around
need
the
to
block.
get through, go around the block.
I don't do this when you have your parties and that type of thing. And so he went from, combative to just downright disrespectful.
That boy went
Cursed her out like a
Niggas
dog.
so bad.
Yeah. But for me, it was like, this is so New Orleans.
Right. Yeah, that was so New Orleans.
It was like some Tesla rage.
She walked into that shit.
You're
That shit
funky,
went
hoe, you're
from
dirty,
0 to 100.
He called that everything in
She
the
walked
book.
into that one. She walked into that
She
one.
surely did.
Yeah.
She surely
It's like,
did.
yeah, you don't never heard a black man curse a woman out in the Orleans. Like,
Not
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite one was, go back to Kenner, ho.
yo, where are you from? I've been born. No, I've been here fucking
No,
all my
where
life.
are you from?
Where are you from? Arkansas.
And for her to break down like Arkansas.
You talking about plantation, Miss Daisy, ho?
It's like that was the moment she recognized, oh, I didn't fuck with the wrong. That's when Arkansas. That hit me right there. Like, damn, she's sincere all of a sudden.
or like most black women say, you didn't fuck with the right one.
You're right, the right one.
But I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. When she bent over, show that G-string. I was like Josephine Johnson. Show your G-string. Show my nigga. I was like, oh. I was like, all right. We got one taco.
Well, you can just tell,
But
you can tell she's a big fan of Big Frida. So I mean, it just is what it is. You're gonna work it out.
She got turned on by the alpha male's aggression.
But
Jump the fuck out.
I just call him the Black Karen at this point.
I thought about the very first topic when you invited me on here.
Yes.
Because we talked about white privilege.
Yeah.
Right.
We talked about racism. And there was in that 13 minutes, and strangely, like, people send me shit. And like, I wake up to it and like, what is this? And I was tempted to like post it multiple times before everybody else jumped to it. But because of the language that was used, I personally chose not to. I didn't want it to seem like I was pushing a particular, you know what I'm saying? That's not kind of how I represent myself social media wise. So I didn't. I think, but with you mentioning with her dropping, bending over,
right?
Which again changes the whole narrative. Could have easily changed the whole narrative.
Yeah, it could have.
You know what I'm saying? But the thing that hit me once, out of everything else, what hit me with that was that again epitomizes white privilege.
Yes, it does.
To comfortably,
Been over.
the way people talk about women's rights, etc.
Yeah.
For you to comfortably bend over with the proper pose,
Toot that ass up.
the proper pose,
Yeah.
and show your ass with a G-string on.
Yes.
That's because imagine a black woman
Right.
having an issue with white neighbors.
Right.
Yeah.
And she bent over and pulled her dress up.
Oh, it would have been a different story.
That would have been on
God.
CNN.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You see what I'm saying?
I've seen black women bend over in a racial.
She would have got arrested for indecent exposure.
She got fired from her job. Kids got put out of school.
You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
And for me, that was the thing of like, that's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
That
Right.
is white privilege.
And that was one of those things. That was one of the things that I was looking at. I was like, here is the perfect example of, and like I said, I love Byron for doing it because he did it in the stereotypical Karen fashion.
Give them a taste of their own medicine.
Get a taste of their own medicine. He took the mirror and just literally put it in front of him. And,
He walked that hoe down.
yeah.
Yes.
He walked her down the street.
Yeah.
His street. Yeah.
But like I said, for us who I knew him years ago. He still had that same mentality. He still had that same fire and drive in his eyes and all that type of stuff. So just to see him in that vernacular, in that presence is like, that's the part that I love.
Right.
you know, at the same time, I was like, black people are going to miss this fucking message because
everything else in it.
Because everything else in between.
Right. But one thing I loved about it, y'all respected it. Y'all was like, damn, he did that. The whole time he went off, he was trying to attack, come at him was crazy.
Yeah.
He was strapped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was the other thing.
He was strapped.
Yeah.
And he ain't draw down on him.
Yeah. You know, because that's what people who are you know, versed in their handling of their weapons, their firearms.
Right.
You know?
You could tell that, okay, I went and took a class to get my concealed carry.
Right.
So I feel like everybody take a class, you know, come with great responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly.
Blame it on the Henny. But with that being said, it was like, bro, you handle yourself with class and you didn't flash out.
Mm-hmm.
But he showed that you can't come into a New Orleans, predominant New Orleans black neighborhood and pull some bullshit like that. Anywhere else probably can, but New Orleans.
And I think with the gun, I think that the aspect wasn't even about his need to draw down. Again, it was he presented so much audacity in response to her audacity.
Yes.
Right.
The first thing that really tripped him was her audacity.
Right.
You know, but not just saying you can go around the block, but even before that with, you know, why don't you just come and get some tacos and margaritas?
Yeah,
like,
right.
What the audacity of you?
We're not talking about this right now. We're not dealing with this.
Right, it's like you trying to fucking like brush my...
like I don't exist because we are invisible to them. You know, if you've never dealt with gentrification, we are literally invisible to them. We truly are, you know. And she was showcasing that by simply saying your feelings don't matter, your neighbors don't matter, blocking the street don't matter, that you weren't invited doesn't matter, that the neighbors didn't get notified. None of those things matter. Just come get a margarita and taco because you don't fucking exist anyway. You don't matter. Just let me fucking feed you right quick. But with him with the gun deal, I like that audacity because how often do we as black men particularly get to exercise our right
to bear arms?
Yeah,
he told the cop,
so like he said, everywhere I go, I have my gun.
Yeah.
So this ain't about the gun.
Right.
The gun ain't gonna do this conversation.
Right. The gun's for my protection.
The gun's with me all the time. I didn't bring the gun out for you.
It don't matter.
Right.
It's with me all the time.
Right.
I love that also.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you know, is we were just talking about this literally about 2 hours ago. And I was just saying, I was like, here's the deal. We do have to address, you know, what is going on with the city. And New Orleans is not the only city that has this problem. You know, we were talking about earlier, we were talking about Detroit had it in the 80s, 90s. Harlem had it in 2000.
Brooklyn's having it right now.
Brooklyn's having it right now. I was just telling Nicole, I was like, you know, in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, there were, you know, it was just the gambit of black stardom, black, you know, wealth that was in the Fort Greene area. You know, somewhere along the line as the neighborhood was getting gentrified. And so I remember Spike Lee talking about it because
With
Spike Lee had with his dad. You know, and his dad used to have jam sessions every week. For 25 years. And then one day they got that call, that knock on the door. You know, somebody called, you know, disturbing the peace. And that was they kind of knew that was just the end of it. So his Spike Lee's dad, Bill Lee, decided to move. But he was in a rent-controlled apartment, you know, in Brooklyn, in Fort Greene. They used to have drum circles in the park every Sunday. You know, they got called, then they started calling the police on them. So it's not, you know, it's just a New Orleans thing, but it's just refreshing to see somebody just kind of just fight against it for a change and say like, nah, motherfucker, like
fight the power.
Yeah, like, did you get a permit for this?
But with you, I think as with all things, the same way we like to celebrate the uniqueness of New Orleans, New Orleans' issue with gentrification, its recent gentrification, is unique. Right. Because again, if you look up the makeup of our neighborhoods compared to your Detroit, compared to your New York, you know, New York, like you say, you're dealing with rent controls. Right. So you're not really you're dealing with your living space. Right. You're not really living with a space that you own. Right. You know, in Detroit, it was the white flight from the plant workers.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, those black neighborhoods just look like Hiroshima.
Right.
Right.
In New Orleans, we've always been these neighborhoods of a Haitian family, a Jamaican family, a black family, a Creole family, a white family, an Italian family, all within a block or 2 block radius.
Right.
And that still exists to an extent. So the difference with New Orleans is that the gentrification is literally
coming from
next door.
Right.
It's literally the fence line. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which makes it so unavoidable.
Right.
And I think what Brian was hinting at again is like, man, this is my great grandmother's house.
Right.
So we've been here. Don't tell me that you are here.
Right.
We've been here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And there's like this level of like respectability that's ingrained in any neighborhood that, I mean, when you grew up in Press Park, your neighbors knew where to park and where not to park.
Right.
No matter where we live, the East, the Ninth Ward, you know what I'm saying? You're like, that Miss Mary gonna park right there.
Right.
So no matter who come to your house, don't park in Miss
Right,
Mary's
don't park
spot.
in front of the mailbox.
Yeah.
Hey, the neighbor across the street park right there. The bus park
Exactly.
right there. You gotta park over here.
It don't matter that it's a street, that's public street. It's the fact of respectability.
Respectability.
Don't park in Miss Mary's spot.
Yeah.
Yo, they got white people that park in front of my grandma's house all the time. It gets on my fucking nerves. It irks me because I'm like, why? This has never happened until you moved into this neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
But I see it because even because my first house was in a musician's village, and we didn't even have to discuss. There was no meeting.
All you gotta do is pay attention.
Right.
24 hours. You see the whole, you see everything going on.
Everything in this city is a system.
Yes.
Nothing changed. We know for a fact, you sit over there, you sit there, you sit right there, I sit right here. Ain't nothing changed.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think that's the dynamic that we are kind of seeing. And I think the gentrification is not necessarily coming just from white folks coming in. It's white folks from Arkansas, San Francisco, New York.
Highly entitled.
Highly entitled.
Right.
I didn't realize this, but there was a significant number of people who have moved to New Orleans from Silicon Valley. They are well versed in everything that has been Silicon Valley.
Wow.
The only difference is they haven't set up business, like physical business, in New Orleans. Right. But they chose to live in New Orleans. Why? Because San Francisco and Silicon Valley and Simi Valley,
It's too expensive.
it's too expensive.
That's like 50 Cent moved to Texas.
Yeah.
That fucked my head. I was like, whoa.
Well, think about this. Think about this. Joe Rogan, right before he got his big deal,
Right.
he moved out of LA and moved to Austin. He has no ties to Austin, none. But he went, and he moved to Austin, Texas. I think it's in essence, it's the ones who have no cognizance of the culture.
And they're not concerned about it. I mean, if you look at all the condos being built, again, if you look at, what are they calling her right now? Yoga Karen or whatever they call her?
Yeah, Yoga Karen.
Yoga Karen.
What?
With the yoga pants.
Yeah.
Yoga pants. It's like the Karen, she got yoga pants on her yoga mat, and she's fussing. It's like, my thing is this. If you invite me to your house, I'm not going to tell you, if your living room, you have a TV, or your location, your television, your there's the coffee table, the sofa. I'm not about to tell you, oh, you got it wrong. No, I'm a guest in your house. And your house is like, no, you respect me enough to come in your house. I'm going to respect your house to where I don't disrupt it.
Yeah.
That's how I look at these gentrification people. You have to be a guest. How you say, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. I'm not about to go to Rome and complain about what they know. Like, hey,
shit, if we musicians, you see white folk in Europe,
right?
No.
Let them go to a restaurant at McDonald's.
Right.
Speak to me in English.
Right.
No.
You're in the middle of Paris. Speak to me in English.
No.
I'm like, what the fuck is this Royale with cheese? What is this Royale?
What is that?
What is this?
Just call it a quarter pounder. It's a quarter pound in America. Shit.
Stop.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
They call it a Royale the whole time.
It's called a Royale.
It's a Royale.
It's a quarter pounder, but it's called a Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
Relax.
And they will bitch and fuss. No, I want a quarter pounder. Royale. No, a quarter pounder. Just say it in English. You know. But if we look at like all these condos, as you know, people constantly saying, "What's all these condos being built? All these condos being built." But like Drew saying, it's people coming from, you know, all the tech world. Think about it. You come to New Orleans, you can party 24/7. They've been working online,
right?
So they don't need a physical space. You know what I'm saying? So the 1-bedroom downtown on Gravier Street that they paying $2,500 a month for with the rooftop pool. That's light work. That's 1 week. That's 1 week of income for them. Right. That's a drop in the bucket. You know what I'm saying? If you notice the number of Porsches and Lamborghinis
and Teslas,
and Teslas that you see all of a sudden, it's like
I seen Ferrari Uptown.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, where they work?
Hey, what you doing so I can get on?
Where this come from?
I want me a Lambo.
I saw an episode of Property Brothers when they were in New Orleans, right? Mm-hmm. And they had, oh yeah, I mean, I love the show too, but I was like, it gave me a instance of like how unrealistic this shit has become. So they built a house from scratch, right, to compete against each other. It's like it looked like I think it was a duplex. It's on 3rd Street, and I want to say either Daniel or Dryads, one of them.
That's
one of them.
Central City, boy.
Huh?
That's Central City.
In the middle, just the middle of the hood. It's like, you know, it's the hood when there's 3 churches on 3 blocks.
That's the hood.
Right?
Baptist Church. No, Drew Hall. Missionary Baptist Church.
Yeah, Missionary Baptist Church, yeah.
Man.
So, and I'm thinking to myself, and the house went for $750,000.
Probably sold within 2 weeks.
Because they did it.
They already bought it. Yeah. But and I think that's the biggest part of this this gentrification process that has become, you know, the tension.
Right.
Because those people, there's a number of people who just come into New Orleans.
They disrupt the natural order.
They destroy the natural order mainly because they coming in and they buying the 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,100 square feet house for $450,000.
There's a 2-bedroom right now for sale on North Rampart for $685,000.
Yes.
But I'll bring it even closer because this comes back to the whole Byron situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I live in Carrollton, and within the last month, 1 block from my house, there was a call them black family, but they were originally from Africa. Okay, they lost a house to foreclosure. Right now, I've had this thing with all of my elder neighbors. If you have financial issue with your house, so and so you in foreclosure, man, holler at me. Right. I will buy the house and you can rent it from me. Right, yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've had that story, that discussion after the foreclosure has happened with neighbors. So anyway, they foreclosed. Somebody else came and bought the house. Right, worked on the house for about maybe 4 weeks. I'm not exaggerating. The house sold for $599. Yeah, you can look it up. It's on the corner of Dublin and Apricot.
Yeah,
right.
The heart of the streets.
So the house right behind it, that house faces on Apricot. Right. The house right behind it that share the property line faces Dublin, is on Dublin Street. Same thing, 1 block from my house. That house just sold 2 weeks ago for $515.
Yeah.
So you looking at 2 houses right next to one another in Carrollton.
Right. Same specs.
Over $1.1 million for 2 properties right next to each other. Yeah. Now this is where the issue comes in, and this was hurting us. Yeah. I think it was Reggie Ford. Somebody put something about gentrification last week, and I put it on his post. That what we're seeing with gentrification is it needs another name. Right. Because what we're seeing right now is that these white folk white folk and folk with money. Right. Because some of them are non-white. Right. But what they are doing is ensuring that these properties and that these neighborhoods never become black again. Right. For the simple reason, if that house just sold for $599, there ain't a black person on the face of this planet that's gonna buy that house when they ready to sell it next time. Right. Because when they sell it next time, it's gonna be $750 or $800. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. The same thing with the house next to it. And we can go through every neighborhood.
Right.
Like you mentioned, it's funny for you to mention Valence because I was up by Delphia 2 weeks ago doing some grant stuff. And I drove around the church, right? So right there where the cemetery is, that's Valence and what? 8th? Something like that?
Yeah.
Bro, I took pictures. And I'm going to give you these pictures so you can put overlay while we're talking, right? The way I took the pictures, if I would have just posted online and say, name this neighborhood, you would say Lakeview.
Yeah.
You would say, because all the houses, those new two-story design, they all look the same all over the city. But bruh, a whole 2 blocks of what Juvenile talked about second in Daniil. You right down the street from there.
Right.
It's all white.
Yeah.
The whole corridor of the cemetery
Right.
is all white now. You see what I'm saying? So the thing is that while we can commend Brian, I love to go back because I want to talk about the vulgarity. While we can commend Brian with what he said, the same way of that altercation is the same way, and I don't want this to come across wrong, but I've been writing about this and talking about this since 2012.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you back because we had this discussion.
Yeah,
on the
we've been talking
episode.
about this, and I've been saying forever. I'm gonna just give a flat example. Po' Boy Festival. Po' Boy Festival used to be at Palmer Park.
Yeah, right.
When it first started, it was at Palmer Park, right? So white neighborhood, black sprinkled in. That's my neighborhood, right? Then they spread out to Oak Street.
Yeah.
And it was just like the first 2 or 3 blocks of Oak Street.
Shit, now,
but then it started spreading.
Yeah.
It started spreading. And I wrote a long-ass blog about this. I wrote a long-ass blog in like 2014, 2015. And I said, within a year, what used to be Black Pearl, what used to be known as Leander's, you look at Leander's and Oak, that was the hood. You had the corner store right there. You had the old men that hung out across the street drinking 24, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
As Po' Boy Fest spread, it went all the way down to Oak. I mean to Leander's. Then it came down Leander's. 2 blocks down, they had a stage in the middle of Leander's. I said, I guarantee you, this neighborhood gonna change. Because this is what happened. I grew up when second lines were black.
Yeah.
You had 1 or 2 white people at the second line. Michael P. Smith was like the white photographer that was alive. It may have been 1 or 2 others. You didn't see no white folk at no parades.
No.
At no second line.
It was like
you ain't seen
it was
none.
that few that was bold enough to come out though.
When I started preparing to come back here, we're building a house. So I will come down on weekends, you know what I'm saying? And go to the second line. I never forget this, bro. And I'm gonna make this story, I'm gonna bring it home. I saw a fucking 2-lane bus dropping students off at the second line. A Sunday second line. The 2-lane bus dropping kids off. This is what I've always said. While we are celebrating our culture, while we're second lining, Mardi Gras Indian, jazz funeraling, whatever you want to call it, even while we're festivaling, those same white folk that are there, they taking pictures, one, to exploit the culture, but they're also writing down addresses. They writing down addresses of houses that they like. They're writing down addresses of houses that are abandoned. They're going to do the prop. They're going to do the research to find out the tax deal or the liens, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And then they'll sit on it to wait to get to pennies on the dollar.
Right.
They're going to buy it for $1,800.
Right.
They're going to go in there and they're going to put $200 in it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, if you look at Leander's now, from Oak to Claiborne, it's 90% white now. Yeah. Not only that, they didn't got priestly school. They got priestly school for $250,000. How you get a whole school for $250,000?
That's crazy.
You see what I'm saying? And I say all that to say they are in this. It needs to be another name from gentrification, because what this is a new level of gentrification, again, where it's ensuring that black folk will never again be able to buy those properties or living those properties. I tell my kids how in my neighborhood, I bought my first house when I was 21. I'm passionate. All the accomplishments I have in life, the most passionate thing is, as a fucking black man, a black kid, I almost want to say, exactly. I bought my first house at 21. My first house. That same neighborhood, because I still live in that same neighborhood, not the same house, that same neighborhood. And it's a neighborhood that my wife and I have invested in heavily, buying other properties. That's the same neighborhood that I just told y'all, a house just sold a block away from us for $599. Think about it. I bought my first house for $48,000. Right. $48,000.
How many years ago was that?
That was 1996. Okay. The house we live in right now, my wife and I bought that house in 2003, 2004. We paid the family $49,000 cash for that house. There was not a single house in that neighborhood. The max in that neighborhood was $85,000. We're going all the way up till Katrina. Up till Katrina. I had a house for sale at the time of Katrina that was I had it on the market for $135. That was the highest house in that neighborhood. And then it got flooded.
So how much is your house worth now, saying that everything?
The house that I live in right now, if I would have put my house on the market right now today, I'd probably put my house on the market for $550.
And you have other properties.
I have other properties in that neighborhood. Now, as an investor, yes. As an investor, I can say yes, it benefits, right? But I got 4 kids, and like I tell my kids, sadly, with all the work y'all do and all the work we're doing, y'all will never have that opportunity to buy that first house in New Orleans.
Oh man!
And that's the story that we're missing.
Yeah,
is the generational connectivity that has been New Orleans. Mm-hmm. That's wiped, man.
Well, I mean, I saw it.
Yeah, it's wiped.
But I saw it when I moved when I first in my house in the Musician Village, and I was like, I said, I have a feeling that this is going to happen. Why? Because this part of town, because so many black people had moved into this neighborhood, throughout the last 20, 30 years, because at first it was developed as the white part of town. So, like, it's near, for a lot of people who don't know, it's near the Florida Housing Project. The Florida Housing Project was originally built for white folk, and the white, white welfare recipients, so to speak. And the desire was the black, right? And the only thing that separated was a ditch.
Canal and train tracks.
Right.
Canal and train tracks.
Because that's when canal was a canal?
No, it's a canal that separates.
No, it's just a canal.
Not Canal Street.
Not Canal Street. Oh, okay. It's a literal canal. Okay. A drainage canal.
So, but, one thing that I realized about what, like, and I just hate to just be like, well, white culture, white people, it's like, but I think the white folks who understand, they understand what I'm saying. I think part of it is that they understood the history and the significance of the neighborhood more than black folk probably do. Because in that neighborhood is where France School is, right? Right around the corner from the Musicians Village is France School. Well, it's called Keeley now. But that was the site of the first integrated school.
Ruby Bridges.
There's been a campaign to rename the school Ruby Bridges Elementary. So a lot of us don't even realize it, just because we weren't, a lot of times, the history, that type of history has to be drilled in you for you to understand, like, the significance of what you built. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the things that we lost. When I first had my house was valued at like 105. And this is 10 years ago. 105 and 10 years ago.
Because they all started at a flat line of 75.
Yeah, that's just the mortgage.
Yeah.
But it had an evaluation of like 105, something like that. Now, I've only had that house for 10 years. My house is 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1050 square feet. It went from 105 to about 140. The last appraisal I had was at 146. Mm-hmm. Around the corner on, I want to say, Congress and Robinson, there was a house it was a new build, but it was a 3 and 2. Mm-hmm. 1,300 squares. That house went for $299. No, like, it's only about 300 more feet. 300 more feet, just enough feet for an extra bathroom, and some closet space. But you paid $150,000 more than what my house is worth.
Right.
And then I realized that a white couple bought that house, and then on the next block from me, another a white man and his son bought another house that was totally dilapidated. Yeah, it was abandoned, totally dilapidated.
$45,000.
Yeah,
I had the story. I interviewed him.
True.
I interviewed him. I used to teach at the Atlas Marcellus Center. Okay. I taught film.
Got you.
So I would bring my students through the neighborhood.
Right.
And he and his son was out there working on it one day because we had taken photos of the house when it was abandoned. It was a white house, but it had real ornamental details on it. So you can tell whoever built the house It was a working class family.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then we saw him out there, and I just asked him, I was like, you guys have bought the house? Would it be okay for my students to interview you? Mm-hmm. And he broke it down. He found it online on Realtor.com.
Right.
It was $45,000. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's beautiful now.
Yeah. It's
oh
a
my
beautiful
gosh,
house.
it's beautiful.
Beautiful big shed in the back.
Yeah.
And it's just, I was like, man, this is what it is. Mm-hmm. But then when I realized that they started putting in, the white folks that were moving in the neighborhood. Now, this has been a black neighborhood for the last 30 years.
I grew up there, 1705 Police Street.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to Cohen Middle School.
Oh, man, you still know the address and everything.
Oh, yeah.
We still own the house.
Of course, this is the one. Everybody knows the address.
4562 Gallia Drive.
4406 Longdale Drive.
And
I knew the address. I grew up there.
And I went to Cohen Middle School, which is now the Musician Village.
Yeah.
The Musician Village is where I went to middle school.
That's
like
crazy.
the square block.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the school.
That was the school. But I'm looking at it, and those same white people that are moving their kids in the neighborhood are going to Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Like right in the corner. They're setting up the neighborhood. But then I realized why. Once you cross St. Claude Avenue into the Bywater neighborhood, the actual Bywater neighborhood, those houses, those same 3-bedroom, 2-bath,
So fucking unaffordable.
2,000 square foot, 1,500 square foot houses are going for $500,000 and $600,000.
Yeah.
And then I realized that. So I was like, I had to think to myself. I said, well, if I'm coming to a city and I'm buying a property for this amount of money, and I know what the value is of everything else in the city, I would act like that too. They don't give a fuck about the culture because they paid $600,000 for a house that our parents only paid $50,000 for.
So it's
They
hyper.
paid the cost to be the boss.
But it becomes hyper entitlement.
Yeah.
So it's their
It's egotistic.
yeah. Well, it's their white privilege.
Right.
It's their white entitlement. Now it's this economic entitlement.
Right.
And again, I'm dealing with the same thing in our neighborhood because we have had such an influx of folk who have moved into our neighborhood. And same thing, the house right next to us. Once we got our gentrification issue folk to finally move, they bought, and I think about it, this is a house that my wife and I offered the original owners in 2012 to buy for $75,000 cash, right? Because, I was like, okay, I think I would have got it, but I pissed, the guy and his family, we've never had like a really good relationship. He was black, but we never had a really good relationship. He was a really weird dude. Never had a really good relationship, but he was cool,
Yeah.
So I talked to him, like, man, I'll give you 60. He's like, come on, Brice, be for real. I was like, okay, 75 cash. He was like, okay, I'm gonna play the market, so and so and so. I think I pissed him off. He asked me specifically what I was gonna do with the house. And instead of me playing political bureaucrat as I normally do with my gift of gab, he caught me on the wrong day. I think I had been drinking daiquiri or some shit.
He caught you built.
Yeah, he just caught me like in that rare moment.
Yeah, when
And he had
The extra shot.
he was like, what you think you're gonna do with it? I said, I mean, I might, use it for studio space, or I might just tear it down and use it to expand the yard or something. And that's why I fucked up. Because you never tell somebody you're gonna tear their property.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he ended up selling it to a white couple from Chicago. They got it for $130. They converted it into a single. So it was one of those small doubles.
Right, yeah.
Say like a 1-bedroom double. So they converted to a single, which made it a 3 and 2.
Yeah.
Right? Small house. But anyway, so they were in the house for a year. They got divorced. Put the house on the market. They sold the house for I think something like $289.
They flip.
What
Yeah.
made you not go after the house when they sold?
Because I wanted 75. I'm cheap.
Hey,
Now,
Nicole,
I
welcome to
regret
the
it.
world.
I regret it now. I regret it now because no, I'm not gonna say I'm cheap, but I regret it now because the house on both sides of us, they were asking the same thing, $135.
Okay.
I know the valuation of the houses, so I'm like, I'm not gonna be the fool and pay you double what this house is worth.
Because you're a citizen. You from there.
I've
You know what
been
it
there.
is.
Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done to the house.
Right.
Right.
So it's not like you've done. The moment my wife and I bought the house that we're in, before we even moved in it, we modernized it because we had a house around the corner.
Yeah.
Right.
So we worked on the house for a year before we moved in. You know what I'm saying? So we updated everything on the house.
Right.
Whereas these two houses had no updating to them at all, not even exterior. I remember with the house next, the one I'm talking about that sold, I remember when he had these two crackheads with a brown station wagon to put siding on the house after Hurricane Katrina. I watched this shit.
Rocket Central.
Yeah,
My man said he watched you cracking.
Hey,
the station wagon.
and Nicole, they fucking bust their ass and put that sign on their
You know, but you know what that reminds me? That reminds me of I remember when there's a well-known club bar that has been here for 100 years. It's called Buffers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depends on who's talking. You know, depends who's talking about it. Now there was a certain millionaire real estate mogul that lived. Our
Y'all
new
know
neighbors.
neighbors now.
Yeah,
Our people.
you know, but he was living in the house that was adjacent to the bar. It had a patio. The bar has a patio in the back. But he got into a legal battle with Buffers because of sound. You know, the noise ordinance.
He couldn't sleep and shit.
Yeah, he couldn't sleep and everything else. Turns out his main motivation was he wanted to sell a house that he was living in. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2,500, 3,000 square foot house. He wanted to sell it for $1.1 million.
But yeah, he wanted that property value. You know,
He wanted that property, and he said that Buffers
was holding him back.
that had been there for almost 100 years
Right.
was bringing his property value down. But he evaluated his property for $1.1 million. Why? Because he was along Esplanade Avenue, and everything in that area, 1.5, 1.6. You know, if you're not careful, you know. So I think that's, for me, that is kind of like the epitome of what's going on and why it triggered Byron to just like go off the way he did.
Right.
You know, because he's like, bitch, just because you paid, I don't care what the fuck you paid for this house.
I think they paid like $3 something.
Yeah.
Everybody put all their information online.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm petty. I'm on the
You know
Henny.
what I'm saying?
If I meet a cracker, if I meet a white person with gentrification, I want to know. I'm counting your pockets. Where you get this money?
But you see, you
I'm
know,
petty.
Well, that's another discussion altogether, brother.
Right.
but you asked like why I didn't get those houses. And today I regret it. But and that's the thing with us being locals, you know the history of the house. You know the house and had termites. You know the house ain't been treated. You know the subflow.
It's
the same one
been
from
rotted out.
Katrina.
It's the same house
You
that
just
I've been in the
watch it.
neighborhood for 20 years already.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I know the house ain't worth
that.
150.
Right.
So for me to buy it for 150, I'm like, what am I gonna do to get this money back?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But then you get these other folk with the luck, and I never forget the couple. So, you know, and Drew's familiar with this. We had a couple that moved next. So after the couple from Chicago sold the house, they sold it for $289. They sold it to this young white couple. Right. And I'm the nicest neighbor in the world. I'm the nicest guy in the world. I really am. And I remember the night they moved in. We had just got a Ring doorbell. We were at the Japanese place down the street eating. Ring doorbell rings. It's her. She wanted to bring us a little plate or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we're not home right now. We'll be back home. I was happy because I had the Ring doorbell. I could talk to motherfuckers on my porch, right? You know? So anyway, that was our introduction.
I ain't gonna lie, that Ring doorbell is the shit.
That was our introduction.
Right.
So we got home and sure enough, they knocked on the door, brought us a little plate. You know what I'm saying? We didn't eat it. That's another story.
Yeah,
That had to do with it.
that's New Orleans people.
That's New Orleans. I don't fucking know.
That's
I
New
ain't
Orleans
eating this shit.
people.
But thank you for the plate. You know what I'm saying? And tomorrow I will tell you what's
I'm
good.
gonna throw that bitch away.
Yeah, I will tell you what's good.
I will bring you your plate back.
You can keep that
So
hoop.
that was the introduction that was our introduction, and everything was cool, copacetic. You know what I'm saying? Maybe like a month later, some shit. And I'm gonna give you this video too to play on this. So to bring context to shit, because so I'm outside cutting my grass. You know, I'm a super gardener. I do my landscaping and stuff, and she just starts yelling, "Get out of my yard! Get out of my yard! You're in my yard!" And I'm like, I'm looking around like,
Who the fuck she talking to?
Right.
what's wrong with her? You know, then I recognize she's talking to me,
Right.
and I'm like, what the fuck you talking about?
So in other
and
words,
she's yelling, get top of her lungs, get out of my yard, to the point where neighbors are coming outside and
so in
stuff.
other words, she was the plantation Miss Daisy.
Right.
Miss Daisy Ho.
This ain't that
Daisy
kind of,
Ho.
this ain't that kind of neighborhood. The neighborhood is quiet.
Right.
We have a lot of black elders in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So the neighborhood is quiet, and all of a sudden you got this white woman yelling at the top of her lungs. People coming outside. So I'm like, of course I grabbed the phone.
Right.
Start recording. You know, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm on the fucking sidewalk.
I remember that.
Content.
I'm on the fucking sidewalk. What are you talking about?
Right.
Then her husband comes out, you know, and it was night and day. From that point, literally for the next year and a half, these people called the police on us multiple times per week.
Yeah.
Per week.
I remember that.
Sheesh.
We got a restraining order.
They didn't get in trouble for this?
We went to court.
Oh my God.
We had to get our property surveyed again because I put a fence up between the property. We only have like 4 feet between our houses.
Right.
Real old New Orleans.
Right.
But my thing was, I don't want to be in my alley doing something, and she come outside and say I tried. So we put a fucking fence up.
Yeah.
We spent $2,000 for a fucking fence, $600 for a new survey.
Right.
Went to court, had to get a lawyer. I mean, it got to that point. It was the most stressful, one of the most stressful things I ever dealt with.
Bullshit.
Every week, and one of the kick thing was, it was this evening. Like I said, these people called the police on me for a Facebook post.
The whole time you wasn't talking about them.
Where I was.
Well, yeah, he did. Yeah,
I was about to
was.
say, nah, that was...
So
it was a good post.
It was a good post. I was on my porch. So
I'm on Facebook, so I can't see it.
again, you know, like the New Orleans houses, everybody porches right next to one another, right? So they had like a sofa set on the front porch, and I'm like, I didn't show the front of their house. I took the picture from my porch, showing the sofa set, and I'm like, ain't this some shit? Beautiful neighborhood and the fucking Beverly Hillbillies move in the neighborhood. Yeah. Something like that was my post.
You gotta relax, Doc.
Something like that was my post, right? I mean, bro, it's a nice neighborhood.
My niggas...
You know, I'm not saying I was right,
That was funny.
but you know, it's social media.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't take it serious. It's social
I
media.
kid you not. 3 days later, police knock on our fucking door.
Let me ask you this. Do they follow you on social media?
So in our neighborhood, we have community policing.
Okay.
Which means if you're having an issue with people, instead of constantly calling 911, you actually have community police liaisons.
Right.
It's 2 officers, right? So we ended up going
Call
to
a different number.
Yeah, you actually have their personal cell number.
Yeah.
So we ended up going to, it got so bad, we ended up going to our district commander, which at the time was Ferguson, who's now the police chief.
Right.
But he used to be commander of the 2nd district.
Okay.
Right? So we followed all the channels, you know, because I'm a black man. I understand what's really going up. And I think what I'm trying to say with this is that we also got to understand with gentrification, being somebody who went through it all the way to having to go to court, is that these people follow a playbook.
Right.
And you gotta follow the same one.
You got to know the playbook. And the first thing they do is they threaten to call the police on you.
Right.
Why? Because they expect that as a black man, and they're not going to deal with a woman.
Right.
Like they never dealt with my wife.
Right. Yeah.
Never opened their mouth to my wife.
They're scared of the black woman.
Yeah.
Never.
Because the black woman got as much power as she do.
Never. But everything was towards me. Always. Right?
Okay.
All right,
So
but that's another topic for
yeah, but it is. It is though.
Yeah.
Because the strange thing about it is that all the altercations, seemingly on paper, was between me
And,
and the wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm petty. You think the wife want to fuck you?
I know she did. You know, I mean, it's just,
Hey,
it had to be
Drew,
something.
Call this episode "Blame It on the Henny."
Nah, that's that get out shit. That's that get out shit.
That goes back to your girl pulling that dress over.
Right.
She bent over, so the cakes.
Who would show their ass to a black stranger?
Snowflakes.
And what Byron Cole said? Nah, I see what you are. I told you, I knew what you were.
Your mammy hoe.
Right, I called you.
Your mammy hoe.
They play by this playbook, man.
Right.
And the first thing is to try and call the police because they expect us to be afraid of the police. Like you have a record or you're afraid of police, so and so and so and so. And they called the SPCA on us for our dogs. They called. So Ferguson told us add more security lights. So we put lights down this alley because it's dark, right?
Or I remember those lights there.
You remember? They called the police on us for the lights.
The lights were too bright.
And said the lights was too bright. They called the city on us. The city came to my house to look at the... Bruh.
What did the city say?
After they came to the house, there was nothing they could say.
Right. Okay.
But I'm saying all this to say, going back to how much are they buying these houses for? we can't get the police to come out for somebody breaking in your car for a gunshot.
A 67A or a 64J.
It don't matter what it didn't matter what these people said happened. Within 10 minutes,
they out there.
For 2.5. I mean, for damn near 2 years, a police was at our house within 10 or 15 minutes.
I kid you, I watched that in Boston. It blew my mind how the response was fast. Like 5 minutes after something happened, the police was out there.
Yeah.
But I was like, coming from New Orleans, I'm like, the police ain't fucking coming after no 5 fucking minutes. But let it be a white person.
Yeah. Exactly.
Them niggas.
They was there all in
man.
Yeah.
You know, it finally, the strange thing that brought it to an end is that, again, I credit Ferguson because he dealt with it. My wife and I met with him. My wife is just like straight up, you know. And my wife was like, I'm tired of this shit.
Right.
You are putting my son's life at risk. You put my husband's life at risk. And we're going back and forth playing this game with these people.
Yo,
you know what I'm saying? And finally, yeah, y'all was hitting that bottle way before I got here. I got here way late.
Well.
You're going to be editing like a motherfucker on this episode here.
Blame it on the Henny.
But he, you know, he was like, okay, we did the lights.
Right.
He was like, the lights worked, but damn, officer still ended up going. Bro, the officer, and you remember that, the officers knocked on my door at 3:30 in the morning for these fucking lights.
Yeah.
For lights.
3:30 in the morning.
For lights.
For lights.
I'm talking about jingle bells.
And I'm like, officer, what's the problem? Oh, your neighbor said your light's too bright.
Bright.
I said, we in New, and this is one of them weekends where there was like 17 shootings type of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm like?
You got other shit to do.
I'm like, with all due respect, you just, and I say the only reason I came to the door is because my doorbell, I'm able to see that it was a police officer.
Right.
I said that's the only reason I came to my door. I said, but with all due respect, it's 3:30 in the morning. Right. With all the crime in New Orleans, you mean to tell me that you have the audacity to knock on my door because this white woman called about lights?
Yeah.
So that pissed Ferg off. Because think about it. Every crime that happens, there's a report for every officer that goes out.
Right.
He's starting to look bad now.
Right.
Because you got all these officers constantly reporting to the 2600 block of Dublin Street for the same dumb shit week after week. Yeah. And here it is, you got rapes, murders, crimes, etc.
And the thing is, it's coming to his email.
Yes. You know what I'm saying?
He's kind of
so that's making you look bad at this point.
Right.
So, you know, finally he was like, this is the only issue with this is that it's constantly he say versus she say. You're saying this, they're saying this. He said, if at all possible, if y'all can get some more cameras installed on the house. My homeboy does cameras, security cameras. What did we do? We went to Costco, got the little $400 camera set.
Right.
So now we got 7 additional cameras on the house. This must have been August, September. We were in Atlanta for Christmas that same year. We see a U-Haul truck front the house.
Right, your house.
I say, right next door. We out on camera so we can see. I say, these motherfuckers moving. These motherfuckers moving.
Yeah.
And guess what happened? Guess what made them move?
What?
Them fucking cameras.
You know why?
Because at this point, the game over. Everything's on tape now. So we put a camera down the alley facing forward, down the alley facing backwards, on the front porch facing towards their house. So essentially, we had like, what is it, more than a 360 view. Right. You can see half a block.
At that point, you going to jail for false calls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So once we put the cameras up, the call stopped.
Yeah.
And literally 2 or 3 months after that, they were out.
I'm finna get my grandma cameras for her house. Fuck that shit. I'm finna get her some cameras. Merry Christmas, motherfucker.
We have not, there's more white folk that moved in the house. So what I say, they 289,
Man.
they lost on it because they couldn't flip it. So the people who live in the house now, who are white also, I think they're from Shreveport, they bought the house.
They from here.
They bought the house for like $294. Something like that. But still, and then the house next door to them sold for $299. So you still talking about 2 houses that sold in excess of $290,000 that we tried to buy for $75.
Realtors, do you need some special aerial photography or video footage? Or maybe you need some stock footage of the city for your presentation? Or maybe a beautiful shot of a landmark just to hang on your wall? Well, time for you to check out DM NOLA Shots. They are a drone photography and videography company established in New Orleans who specialize in capturing aerial 4K video and photo. Check out the website at www.dmnolashotsllc.com. Or follow us on social media at DM Nola Shots on Instagram and Facebook. DM Nola Shots.
One of my band leaders, Anthony Bennett, you know, he's another one who is just kind of like, you know, active in the civil rights community.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also, you know, has a number of businesses, and I love, you know, and I love that about him. That's the thing I really love about him. But his house, he has, you know, he stays in the 6th wall.
They didn't hit him hard lately.
They hit him hard because he originally bought his house 20 years ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago, for $65,000. It was a duplex, right? He's just one on one side, one on the other side, right? He gutted it all out, made it one big house, you know, that type of thing. So it was pretty much evaluated for around 140, 150 for about 20 years. Like 20 years. Right next door to him was always this lot. It was just a lot. So the lot finally was sold. They put a new build on the house and put a new build house on that lot. That house sold for $800,000.
And it looked like a
What?
It looked like
Futuristic.
it looked like a Lego block.
Yes,
Looked like
it's one
a
of them
full-story
futuristic,
Lego block
you know,
house.
LA
Kind of modern vibe.
Yeah, right. Environmental looking houses. But he told me the house that's on the corner is like the corner of Ursuline and Dergenois. Big house, big, pretty, like plantation style house, right? The guy
That's the one
bought
white
it.
guy got.
Yeah, the guy bought it for very, very cheap, and you know he finally tried to sell it. You know, I think he had like 4 or 5 apartments in there. He finally tried to sell it, and he wanted like $1.1 million for it on a corner of Ursuline and Dergenois. $1 million house. So it's just I think part of that, yeah, you know, we addressed it. It's just kind of like it's the white privilege, and I'm trying not to say white, but I'm saying it in the context. But I'm just saying in the context of, you know, the ones that come from all over the country, you know, in like much more expensive straits.
But they're just ensuring again that black folk will never again live in those properties or those neighborhoods. So the other thing about Anthony Bennett's neighborhood is that
I'm gonna be rich. Mark my fucking words. I'm gonna be rich and I'm buying shit. I'm buying shit.
The other thing about Anthony Bennett's neighborhood is that across from him on the opposite corner was like an old cleaner, so old store, some houses.
Yeah.
Literally in one night, that whole quarter of a block went up in flames.
Yeah.
Shit.
Mysteriously. Went up in flames. A quarter of a block.
Yeah.
Shit.
But it was only the properties that these old black folk owned, an old black family,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to sell. Cleaners, store, and some like
It's a
3
tailor, I
houses.
think. It's a tailor.
Yeah.
That's an inside
Like the mom and pop
Yeah.
shops.
But you ain't hear
Pop shop.
from the Alabama podcast.
They didn't want to sell. Strangely, a quarter of a block went up in flames.
Okay.
So now what ends up happening again, like with Anthony. So Anthony has this big ass, humongous house that shadows over his house,
Wow.
totally out of place. But again, $800,000. Now you got 2 houses away
House
from
that
him.
belongs in Lakeview.
It does. It
How's that-
belongs looking over the levee.
Right.
I mean, I like the design because I like modern shit,
Right, yeah,
but it has
exactly.
nothing to do with that
It
neighborhood
has nothing,
at all.
absolutely nothing to do with the
It
neighborhood.
shouldn't. I don't even think it was approved.
But
But
that's
anyway,
how they do it though.
you know.
Right.
That's how they do it.
So the flip thing, and we're gonna see this in a few months in New Orleans. The flip thing is that take the sales out. What's also happening is property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So remember how I say how these properties in my neighborhood selling. We got our tax bill this summer, which was too late for us to. I mean, the end of last summer, which was too late for us to actually fight it because you have up until August to fight it.
Right.
We got a note saying that our taxes wouldn't change, that we were locked in.
Right.
And then 3 months later, we get a new tax bill. So since Katrina up till now, our taxes have gone up 6 times the amount of what they were.
6 times?
6 times the amount of what they were.
That's
so what
bullshit.
happened? But
No, I fell into the same shit.
if you got somebody, now remember I said the house in my neighborhood went between 45 and 85, all the way up until 2005. Now those same houses are selling for 300,000, and now down the street 500,000, 600,000. So now everybody else's taxes is going to be based on Those houses.
Those houses, exactly.
So you got, if unless they're locked in, which you have to be 65 to get locked in.
Yeah.
So now you got people who can't afford taxes because where I'm supposed to find $5,600 to pay my taxes when I was paying $800 or $1,200 for taxes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now you got folk who gonna lose their properties for tax. And this is the thing, going back to Brian. The whole time I was watching it, and I still want to talk about the language, but the whole time I was watching it, the whole time I was watching it, you know what I was really thinking up until she showed her ass, literally. But you know what I was really thinking? Honestly, just because I'm that person, I was like, he keep talking about his grandma's house.
Right.
Man, I hope them fucking taxes paid.
Right.
I hope he ain't got no liens on that
Facts.
house.
He said I pay more taxes than all you myself.
I'm like, I hope that there is nothing, because you know what them white folk gonna do now? They're gonna satellite the house. They're gonna drone the house. They're gonna look for every possible way to call 311
Get them out.
or send a email to 311 and put complaints against that house, whether it's trash, whether it's concrete abatement, whether it's whatever.
Whether it's ain't painted.
Because when it happened with the lights, before the city came out, we got a letter from the city saying that we got a complaint about what they call them nuisance lights.
Right.
And I explained to the guys, like, bruh, I paid $85 per set, and we got 4 of these lights. Right. I say these lights have a new technology. They're dimmable. They're self-dimmable. Right. So you know you have regular floodlights. Yeah. They come on, and then after 10 minutes, if there's no activity, they dim. No, they don't turn completely off, but they dim. Yeah. So they're not bright at all. But then if something triggers it, it goes back bright. Right. I'm like, so I'm like,
so that means you motherfucker was in the alley.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it ain't actually fucking bothering you. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But this is the deal. So and this goes back to that playbook that I say, the gentrification playbook. They'll call the city on you. These people reported our fucking dogs. Yeah. Now check this out.
That ain't being petty.
That
ain't being petty.
But what kind of dogs?
But the SPCA will come out quicker than the police.
Of course.
So let me play this scenario. Play this scenario. I work from home. My office is at my house, right? I leave to go to Costco. Leave to go to Costco just to get dog food. I leave about 1:00. I get back about 1:25. I pull up to the house. There's a green sticker on the door. I'm like, damn, Energy didn't turn my fucking lights off, but I paid the light bill. I'm like, ain't this a bitch? They didn't turn my lights off.
There was Energy.
Yeah, because it's Energy and Sewage and Water Board. You know what I mean? Like, turn my lights off. But I'm like, damn, I paid my light bill.
Sewage and Water Board is another case for another episode.
We back in the saddle with cash.
I walk up, and it's a SPCA sign.
Yeah.
Saying, call us, officer so and so coming for welfare check for dogs. So I called. I'm like, I just pulled up to my house and I got this thing on my door. What this is all about? Oh, we got a complaint about your dogs, that your dogs are in the yard and your dogs are in a cage and your dogs are not able to be, they're not supposed to be in a cage for a certain amount of hours, so and so and so. I said, what are you talking about? Explain yourself. I said, brother, you put a sign on my door at 1:20. I'm calling you at 1:25.
Right.
I got my fucking Costco receipt from 1:15. Costco is 3 red lights from my fucking house.
Right.
So you mean to tell me that my dogs can't be in the cage for 15 minutes?
Right.
I said, that's the first thing. I said, but the second thing, who's to say that my dogs are outside in the cage?
Who's looking at my dog?
Yeah, who's looking at my dog? So tell me what's really going on, right? I said, you know what? You can come back to this motherfucker and see what you need to see, right? So sure enough, they come back in a couple of hours. Now peep this. Our kitchen has a set of French doors that open up to our outdoor patio, to the yard. Right. When I left, I had the patio doors open with the dogs in their cages.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The dogs are literally inside.
Okay.
But they're in their cages.
Yeah.
I ain't got to worry about nobody trying to come to my yard and go in the house.
Right.
We got a fucking pit bull, and then it was a boxer.
Okay.
We got a pit bull in the box. They ain't coming in my house.
They don't give a fuck. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the lady come back to the house. I showed her, I showed all the dog papers. Here's their vet papers. Here's their rabies shots. She look at the fetal. I can tell they house dogs. So tell me what the fucking problem is.
Right.
Oh, but somebody said that somebody reported and said that your dogs were outside. Your dogs were outside in a cage. And they'd been in the cage for several hours, so and so and so. I said, well, ma'am, you can clearly see that my dogs are inside and the fucking doors are open. They called 2 more times. I had to go to court.
Let me ask you.
I had to go to court
For
to
your dogs.
prove for my dogs
For
to
your dogs.
prove that I had French doors that allow
Nigga
my
had
dogs to
prove
be
that He
inside.
had French doors for his dogs.
That allow my dogs to be inside.
What?
Dr.
But it's anything to harass you.
Can I ask you a
Oh
question?
my God.
With this whole gentrification shit been going on for the past few years, from what I've been hearing about over the years, and even with you coming on the show, ain't no way around us being diplomatic with these crackers.
Not at all.
We can't be diplomatic with them.
You can't.
So
Nah, let's
the
make a
thing
distinction.
about it is that I
Let's
just
make
answered.
distinctions, baby.
I just answered. You say he sucked me in, he said crackers, and I still answered.
Yeah.
Let's make a
Yeah.
distinction.
We can't be diplomatic with these
can't-
crackers.
yeah,
We can't.
Let's make a distinction.
Blame me on the Henny.
Right.
Fuck out.
Let's make a distinction. When we define these motherfuckers as crackers,
Right.
like I said once again,
The Karens.
is these folks, yes, the Karens,
Karens.
the ones who come from, Silicon Valley,
Idaho.
Cedar Valley, Idaho,
Them red
Arkansas.
states.
Right.
Them red
They come
states.
from rural
You
towns.
coming with your area code and your cell phone is not
Nigga,
504.
right.
Right. Right.
You
You
don't
know-
come where you see gunshots. You come where you see dogs. Or
Right.
you come where you
Right.
see haystacks or some dumb shit.
Exactly. That we're making the distinction because I want, and the only reason why I'm doing that is because there are just, there's a big faction, a very distinctive faction of white folk who come to the city, who've moved here, and they're like, no, I want to embrace the culture. And, they say, no, I am going, when in Rome, do as the Romans. They're exponentially another amount, as many
Right.
as, the Karens, so to speak, who come in and say, you know what, no, I want to experience the culture. Like, what is New Orleans?
Right.
That's what I want to be.
They want to experience like the party and all that shit. They don't want to experience like the other shit that
Right.
come with
No,
fun.
wait.
Like,
It's like Paul.
That's what I'm saying. Like, those, the Karens are the ones who I look at, and that's what they do.
uh-huh.
They come in and they say, I paid $600,000 to live a block away from Bourbon Street.
Right. But you
But
can't shoot
don't
over here.
disturb me.
Like,
But
you
yeah,
can't be,
but it's too loud
Right,
on Friday,
right.
Saturday, and Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing for me. It's like, no, if you paid $1 million for your 2-bedroom, house,
Right.
in the French Quarter, know that if nothing else, there will be music and shit going on
All the
on
time.
Bourbon all the time,
All the
every
fucking
night.
time.
It's like
on
you know what
Bourbon
you got
Street.
yourself into.
Right.
How Paul wanted to say on Dave Chappelle.
Right.
Everybody
bitch, you
want to be a nigga,
moved
but
here.
don't want to be a nigga. Everybody want to be from New Orleans, but don't want to be from New
Oh,
Orleans.
of course.
And that's how I feel. It's like you love our culture, but you across the street from Kermit, every Sunday Kermit popping, you complaining. But on a weekday, I want to go to Kermit. No,
But
bitch, you got
I
to
tell
go
you
with
this.
the band.
But I tell you this, it happened to.
Kermit pissed too.
Right, of course.
That's another conversation.
Well, we had that conversation. We had that conversation. Well, no, I had that conversation on your podcast. Because I said one thing that the people on the Claiborne corridor don't understand is that the people who are on Oak Street, the people who are on like various other places uptown, is that they are a part of the business association. The business association, the New Orleans Business Association, they have been against every mayor and what every mayor has been doing for quite a while.
Okay.
Like going back to, as I can remember, going back to Mark Morial.
Okay.
Shout out to Ray Nagin.
When was I was about to say I've only been around for Ray Nagin. I'm very young.
Well, and that's interesting that you say that because I read Ray Nagin's first book, and he said, and he talked about this meeting that he had. So, his family went to San Antonio after the storm.
That old money.
That old money. And so, it got to a point where it was about 3 weeks in, and like pretty much everybody who could be bust out was bust out. After the out of the convention center, out of the Superdome. So they were like, Mr. Mayor, go home with your family, go chill with your family for about 2 weeks. Da-da-da. He goes out there. He gets a call from the president of the business association and says, Mr. Mayor, would you, we would like to meet with you as to the future of New Orleans, of the, what's going to be the new Orleans. He says, no problem. Like, I am for, the business community getting together and putting together a plan, to make New Orleans better.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to the meeting. He says, there's about 100 people in the room representing businesses in New Orleans, in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Out of those 100 or some odd businesses, there were only 2 blacks in the room. One from one company. Matter of fact, let me go back.
It was Dan Packer, right?
No, it wasn't Packer, because I think it was Packer that called him on the way to the meeting and said, just to let you know, we weren't invited to this meeting. We know the meeting is there, but we weren't invited. So he brushed it off. He just thought that was just, everybody all the business can't be in the meeting. That's just the way it is. But what he did was, he said he got there, and with the exception of his bodyguard that was with him, there was only about 4 black people in the room. There's about 100 of them in there. There's about 4 black people in the room. And one of the black people was actually representing a white-owned company. So they already had an architect develop the New Orleans.
Had all the plans.
All the plans.
Green space, everything.
Presentation.
All the plans, everything was printed.
There was a brochure that came out when when the new mayor's race. That Mitch got in, and who was it?
Your boy from the Audubon Institute, Foreman.
Yeah, Foreman, and the one Murray, the one that dropped out soon, which is interesting. Another interesting thing to me, he drops out soon as Mitch,
in Urban originally.
All right, we're gonna let it alone.
I mean, he announced at the House of Blues.
Dr. Brice, you gotta relax, man. You gotta relax, dog.
Maybe I should have got you some white instead of brown.
I'm a fact finder.
This episode is called Blaming on the Henny.
Yeah, blaming on the Henny.
Fact finder.
So he said, they already had an architect developed the New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And that was the brochure that everybody read when the next mayor's race came about. But Nagin said, no, what is this space? What is it? What is these green dots? Oh, that's green space, Mr. Mayor. Mm-hmm. We're going to have some green space in order to save the wetland, the whole that type of thing. And so he says, well, at least give the people who live in these areas a chance to decide what they're going to do with their properties in this area. Well, I don't know if that's such a good idea, Mr. Mayor. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a good idea, Mr. Mayor. Like, I don't know if that's And he's like, no. He said he knew that from that point on, he had a bullseye on his back.
Ray Nigga is the hero that we needed, though.
We really did.
And where that boy at?
Well, he just got out.
Shout out to Ray Nigga, man.
Let's go for him.
Yeah.
Doing the Ray Nigga
he's never coming back here.
So,
it's sad the way it all went down.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those things. It's like, we just have to understand, which actually, let's before I am not going to even say that. Let's just go into,
Well, one part with the plan, because I think people should know, is that a part of that plan is that the lower 9 was dedicated and promised to Trump.
Yeah,
it's going to be like
the lower 9.
Yeah, Nicole. They're trying to build a whole strip.
The lower 9 was supposed to be a golf course, hotel.
Hotel. What? Trump was supposed to take over the whole
lower 9.
Yeah, lower 9.
Yes.
Yes.
Fuck
and
no.
here's the thing.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
What?
No.
Tennessee Street,
According
right?
to that plan.
Yes.
Tennessee
Street though, right? Tennessee Street is like parallel to the wall in the lower 9th wall, Tennessee Street.
Okay.
They wanted to take out those 2 blocks and put another wall there. Why? Because they wanted to change the cruise ship port from the river to the lake.
Mm-hmm.
So there was going to be, the cruise ships was supposed to like dock in Lake Pontchartrain instead of on the Mississippi River. That's the reason why they wanted to widen it up. The problem is that they were going to try and use eminent domain to take all of the property on that level. The Army Corps of Engineers actually tried it. Mm-hmm. That's why they were just like, well, here's $30,000 for your property. Look, your house is gone.
And you gonna take that $30,000 because your house is gone.
Because your house is gone.
Exactly.
So the people, but what they didn't factor in was the people that was been like, man, I could rebuild this house. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
My insurance policy didn't pay me to rebuild my house. You know, but once again, we're talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about the lower ninth ward. The lower ninth ward was built on the backs of the carpenters, the brick masons, the plumbers, you know what I'm saying? Like the working class black folk that was built.
Since the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah, it was bartered. Mm-hmm. It was a barter. So, you know, like I said, that's another discussion altogether too. So, you know, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna put that on the whatchamacallit, so next time I can get you, you know, you can get you on you.
But the hip, you know, with all this, and I know you're gonna have a hell of a job editing, putting all this stuff together. But
I ain't editing shit.
You know,
this is gonna be a Joe Rogan episode.
the thing with it is, and I think it's something I've been thinking about lately, because I feel like I'm hitting my head against the wall sometimes. Well, a lot of the times,
right?
And it's because I keep trying to figure out how can we get black folk, young, old, middle aged, to just be more well-read and more aware of what's going on. In 2013, 2014, when I blogged about the city is pushing us to second line in Mardi Gras Indian so that they can take our properties from us.
Yeah.
Everyone thought I was just hating, like I'm against the culture.
Yeah.
I'm not against the culture. I'm sitting here watching this shit.
Right.
They want to keep us entertained.
Right.
And while we're being entertained,
They infiltrate.
they are infiltrating. And an example that I give.
So, I hate to cut you off, but just so you understand, like, one of my part-time jobs is working at a spot called Jam Nola. Mm-hmm. And Jam Nola Jam Nola is owned by two white gay guys to be exact. And like they're sweet dudes or whatever the case is, awesome, whatever the fuck. But I understand that they came in a situation where they're like, I love New Orleans and I want to do this for New Orleans, but they don't understand how much hurt that they're causing. Because it's not really, when you get down to the substance of Jam Nola, it's not necessarily, damn, I'm a
timestamp, Drew. Hey, Drew.
But the point is, you have these white people who are not from New Orleans, literally making money from the culture of New Orleans, and they have no fucking idea.
It's a bamboozlement. It's a bamboozlement.
Right. But the script that I have to read every day to do this job,
that shit hurts your spirit.
It's crazy, because I'm like, this does not scratch the surface of who we are as black people. And when you summarize it down to all of it, and when you just get to the bottom of it, this isn't even about the black culture. It's about you, and you want to be noticed that you came into this city and you did something.
I'm gonna tell you this. I did a tour with my ex-girlfriend, and it really scratches the surface where it's like it showed the Indians back in the 90s,
black masking
Indians. It showed Cole Young's artwork in the city of like the shotgun houses. Show stuff with the bees coat. It's like, and then when you get to the party, it show the Mardi Gras Indians, the baby dolls. It's one of them things where it's like you barely tapping the surface.
Not even close.
You're not even getting to real detail. It's one of the information where it's like, I said, I'm a white guy. I said, you go take pictures of the culture. Y'all give me information. And I create a platform.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
exactly.
It's bullshit.
But actually that's the epitome of why Sidney Torres is the go-to guy for everything real estate, everything New Orleans. You know why? Because he's come in, he's set up business, he's made millions. And I would say with confidence, billions.
Yeah, I think he did.
He's I can say with the confidence that he's amassed $1 billion in gross.
Look, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna figure that shit out. But I'm telling you, I'm buying shit. When I'm gonna be rich as fuck, and I'm buying shit.
Nicole, I'm gonna give you some game.
I'm buying. Listen, mark my words, okay? I am buying shit in my fucking city because my people fucking deserve it. But mark my words, I'm buying this shit back. I don't give a fuck who y'all white people are. I'm going to fucking figure out if it's not my generation, it's going to be the kids that I buy or whatever the fuck.
Hey, get cryptocurrency, but don't buy us Dogecoin. Don't buy Dogecoin.
Be mine, okay? I'm not playing.
But we have to find a
PJ Morton. Shout out to PJ Morton.
We have to find a way to buy it, but we also have to look out for those who look like us because, a birdie just sent me a note of someone here in NOLA who is very well known and has amassed, building restaurants and bars and shit like that, who has also just recently, within the last few days, partnered with Sidney Torres.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need somebody who look like you to get to the goods that represents you.
Of course.
You see what I'm saying? But
we're going to work that later.
But honestly, man, it hurts my heart because I said years ago that we were being set up. What I was saying earlier was that think about the Mother's Day shooting. What was the Mother's Day shooting? That was 2015. When was that Mother's Day shooting? The second line. 14 somewhere. All right, so there's a Mother's Day shooting. Which
I remember the advocate for a lot of the brass bands. She died. Yeah, Deborah. Yeah.
Big Red.
Yeah.
So even though there's a conspiracy with the whole Mother's Day shooting, that people say it was an inside job, because none of that, it really didn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. Man.
We're not gonna go into that, but you got two brothers. They looking for supposed targets.
Right.
None of that shit made sense.
Right.
And it just strangely went away.
And when you watch the video, you was like, no, absolutely
this like a fucking movie. This shit makes no sense.
No, like here's the video.
And all white people got shot.
Right. And in the video, in the video,
ain't never been a second line white people got shot.
So one of those street cameras caught it. Right. The dude literally gets in the front of the crowd and just starts spraying across the front of the crowd.
Red.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it doesn't make sense, because it's like, okay, so there is no way you're going to have me to believe that you were trying to shoot at one person.
Oh, no.
I saw him go from left to right.
And then we got a yop stick. You got
yeah.
The yop stick.
No.
Like
we supposed to be dumb.
But white folk got shot. But this the reason I brought that up. So the next day, that Monday, Landrew holds a visual.
Oh, wow.
In the 7th Ward, on the corner where it happened.
Right.
And he got the people that's over that second line, whatever the second line organization was, and some other second line folk and all that stuff, to like come out and say all these positive words, right? We don't support violence and all this type of thing, right? So there was this little block party that the mayor hosted, Mayor Landrew.
Right.
The timing of it. Guess what was going on during the exact same time as his little press conference? That's when they were in City Hall, in the chamber, city council chambers, and they voted to close down and tear down the Iberville housing project.
For real.
Yeah.
While the visual was going on in the 7th Ward,
for real,
there was the hearing about the. Now think about it, there had been all kind of protests about the Iberville housing project.
Right.
Now suddenly, nobody ain't thinking about the Iberville housing project because everybody in the 7th Ward about the shooting.
My right hand got just distracted. My left hand doing something else.
Yeah.
And what happened that day? They voted to tear down the Iberville housing project.
Yeah.
All this shit is connected. If we went around this city and looked at all the properties that white folk are now in, let's do the history and see how they ended up getting ownership of those properties. And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, tax sale,
civic source,
foreclosure,
yeah,
or the family sold it for pennies on a dollar so everybody could get $5,000 or $10,000 and walk away.
Look, I'm telling you, as black people, we need to understand that $1 million isn't even a lot of money.
$1 million ain't nothing.
It ain't shit.
Why? You got to pay taxes.
Well,
$1 million ain't nothing.
Shit.
But here's
Fuck
my
the
thing.
taxes. It's not a lot of money.
But here's my thing.
We think it is.
Here's my thing, and I've always said this. I think when you get down to the nitty gritty, the mindset that our grandparents and great-grandparents had was the mindset that we need now. It's all about value.
Right.
So our grandparents were like, look, I get it. You know, those houses on the other side of town look really, really nice. And they're about 5 times, they're valued about 5 times as what we have right here. But everybody here values their house to deal, to raise a family, to pass down to the new generations, that type of thing. That's what made like cross the canal. Mm-hmm. So it's like, like cross canal wouldn't be the lower Ninth Ward if it wasn't for the carpenters and like I was saying before.
And it was a community.
It was a community. It's because like the brick mason laid down the foundation for the carpenter's house, and the carpenter, framed the brick mason's house, that type of thing. And so now they have something that can be passed down. Like before the storm, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but before the storm, you could, the value of the houses that were in the lower Ninth Ward were around the $300,000 range, but they were family houses, so they weren't going to be sold. They were going to be passed down from generation to generation.
Nothing was sold.
They were going to be passed down from generation to generation to generation until somebody said, "Well, I don't want this motherfucker no more." That's just, I think that's the...
Gonna go right back to the government.
Right.
Because they're gonna buy that bitch.
My family lived in a 17...
You never really own anything in America. Remember that.
You don't. You really don't. But my family lived in the 1700 block of Egania, which my aunt still lives there now. And there's also a church in the middle of the block. And there's a church on the corner. And there's a church on the other corner, too. And there's a corner store around it.
That's an apostolic church, Baptist church. I'm saying it wrong. Blame me on the head.
It reminds me of that joke Cedric and the Tenant said, church, liquor store, check cash, please.
Exactly.
But I remember the fact is that every family in the 1700s, just using that as an example, every family on that block owned their home.
Yeah.
There was, and the thing is that what people often, was been distorted a bit is that the lower Ninth Ward, up until Katrina, had the highest percentage of black home ownership in New Orleans.
Man.
And what followed that was New Orleans East. But the lower nine had the largest population of black home ownership. Right. And again, those homes were passed down generationally, which became a paperwork issue after Katrina because people couldn't find the deeds, and uncle got killed in a ballroom fight and all this.
No records. Talk to him and blah blah blah.
So that a lot of people lost their properties in that way.
Chasing ghosts.
I wanted to touch on what you actually wanted to touch on also. I think part of it is that while we commend Byron Cole for doing what he did.
Yeah, why y'all defense about it?
Well, but here's the reality.
It's not really good.
I feel it's not a different way.
Yeah, I mean, you did what you did, but it's like he did what he did, and he's commendable for it because he's literally fighting against just the gentrification and the just the white privilege that he saw, and which is actually a good starting point. A good starting point.
I think he got the ball rolling. He brought awareness.
Yeah. But here's my thing. The reason why I don't think he got the ball rolling was mainly because it wasn't what you say, it's always how you say it. I always use the whatchamacallem, like remember from the Cosby Show, Vanessa brought home the older dude, and he was like, and so Heathcliff was like, I know you like dinner. What you like to eat? Steak, okay, cool, steak. I'm gonna put the pan, I'm gonna prepare, and this, that, and the other, and I put it on a garbage lid, and I give it to you. How do you feel? And that's how you presented it to me. I think the problem that's gonna come along with this is that they're not going to see someone who is fighting for the what's the word? The restoration of the culture of of just the conservative. The conservation of the culture. They're going to look at somebody who's just literally just being a black Karen.
He's ignorant.
Yeah, he's ignorant. He's a black Karen. He doesn't even deserve
this nigga.
He's ignorant.
This nigga.
But this is the thing. So several things that rub me with that. One, and I'm gonna talk about the communication. But even this weekend, I don't know if you guys were aware of what was happening on social media, but you have a particular local journalist. For Times-Picayune, NOLA.com, Doug McCash. I'll just say his name.
Yeah, right.
And he put this thing like, I'm looking for the, you guys have seen the gentrification confrontation. Essentially, he wanted to write a story about it.
Right.
And he does this thing where instead of like reaching out to try and get people themselves, he wants people to give him the information, so and so.
Right.
And when I saw that, I actually posted on his Facebook page. I think it was Friday. I was drinking. I think it was.
Blame it on the Henny.
I think it was Friday. So I posted the pic of, the screenshot of her bending over and also the screenshot of the old lady giving the middle finger.
Right.
And I posted, why don't you just ask her friends for her contact? Because he was asking like for her contact and for Brian's contact.
Right.
But when I saw that, I was like, this again exemplifies how he actually fucked up with this.
Right.
And how it goes against what could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been something to get another ball rolling.
Absolutely.
But the way another thing too I know is he created shirts.
Yeah.
But that was funny.
That was funny.
But but this you got to keep in mind, and this, and I'm just being honest with you. I'm blackballed enough, so I'm cool, man. I'm gonna pay my mortgage. And we got to understand that white folk are not our ally
at all.
We should have learned that through the Black Panther Party. We should have learned that through the Civil Rights Movement, and we should have learned that through the charter school system. White folk are not our ally. And when I saw Doug put that post, I simply say right there, what he's about to do is dig a hole for Byron,
right.
Not for her. Because them white folk, dog, one thing my father-in-law taught me, God rest his soul, white dog don't eat white dog.
Right.
I don't care what white dog don't eat white dog. Yeah. So going back to that one, the thing why I don't think the negatives of that situation. One, the language that he used. He came out the box like there was like the two of them were familiar with one another already. He just immediately with the bitches and the hoes and the and that's the first thing that caught me off guard. I was digging it up to the point of like, why the call there? And, who's having a party? And my neighbors called me and the elder neighbor called me. And I'm like, I'm cheering this brother. I'm like,
you stupid hoe.
I'm like, okay, he's doing it. Well, let me invite you for a margarita. I don't want the margarita. Where you from? No, where you really from? Where? Arkansas. I'm like, he's doing it. I'm like, he just broke her down. Right. And then all of a sudden, you bitch, you cunt,
He had to do all that.
Bruh, at that point, I'm just like,
damn.
I'm like, damn. Yeah, 1 yard line. I'm like, how you just do this?
Right.
And then it just kept egging on. Just kept going and kept going. Right. And from that point, I'm like, bruh.
He followed her.
You just lost it all.
He followed her in everything. I was just
you turned into one of them.
Yeah, you lost it all.
You turned into one of them. You lost it all.
And bruh, at that point, from that point, the only thing that made anything else worthy was her pulling up her dress and bending over.
But don't you think it's sad that at that point when he's in his own neighborhood that we still have to follow code by white people to be like accepted by the community to like have that thought that we have by like you're wrong?
What do you mean?
Well, I get that, but it's just for us, and especially black men in particular, that's just a reality we have to deal with.
Right. Which is bullshit to me.
Well, I mean,
I'm confused.
By all moral standards, it is bullshit that we have to kind of, adhere to, handling things in the code that has been set forth.
I don't think it's a code. He could have said all those things without using the choice words that he used. Because again, flip it. Flip it. Again, what if it was a white man and a black woman?
But
everyone would be up in arms. I have daughters. I dealt with gentrification. I didn't even attack this woman who I ended up having to spend tens of thousands of, thousands of dollars on to fight in court. But I never came out the box like that.
I understand, but when we're in someone's culture, we should be able to understand and accept someone's culture and not be able to be like, okay, well, you should have said it in this way. Instead of accepting that this is what happens in someone's culture.
I don't think it's a culture thing.
Let's be real. These motherfuckers are colonizers. They coming over. No thing about it. How you say?
Excuse me for gentrifying New Orleans.
How you say? We let
it on us.
Right. No.
But I think what that is, so I can remember my point. Yeah, we got to blame it on the liquor.
Blame it on the
No, but it's just kind of like, look. If you're on a football, right?
It's gone.
Get a sponsorship on that, man.
Henny, I need a check.
Like, the thing about it is that, is the reason why we say that is because, first of all, we're men. And, throughout life and society, we have been trained since we have been knee-high to a penguin to suck it up, live by the code.
We've talked about this.
And we'll be successful.
We've talked about, is this like a thing that happens, or is this toxic masculinity? I'm a little tipsy a little bit, so.
Well, no.
But toxic masculinity don't exist.
And that's what I felt. I felt toxic masculinity.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt.
Okay.
I was, because it was like, I was like, why? Mm-hmm. You could have really said
same thing.
You could have said everything you wanted to say and more without
cursing out.
It felt personal. It's like, why
your feelings, fam?
Yeah, I was almost thinking, do they know one another? So from the beginning with him immediately like, you're a hoe. And then at the end when she pulled her dress up and he's like, see that? I knew you were a hoe. I'm like, wait, do they know one another? What the fuck is this?
But you know that thing too? This one thing I noticed, I watched the video earlier. When he was out there recording, she came up to him and talked to him. So they must have came cross paths a few times. Think about it.
There's something missing there.
For her to come up to him and say, listen to he on live talking, and she come into my, this is what's going on, like interrupt, like indulge in his conversations. Like, okay.
Well, I'll say this.
Y'all know each other.
There's something you don't even if you highly pissed off, you don't just out and just start calling a woman a bitch out the blue.
Especially you don't know her.
If you don't know her,
right?
You don't just.
You go off on somebody, if you fucking her, she played on you.
Yeah, but somebody that you don't know, a complete stranger, and y'all just get into it, and you just out the blue just start calling the bitches and hoes and, bruh, who does that?
Who's that? Yeah.
So it feels like something.
Who raised you?
It feels like like something missing.
Something's missing
that they know, and then again for her to show her ass in that fashion,
but
she comfortable.
I guess no, hold on.
Way comfortable.
She comfortable.
But I think this is Byron Cole. Like when I saw him, when I first got wind of him 5 years ago, right? He was the same way.
Imagine he ran for mayor too.
Yeah,
he ran for mayor against LaToya.
I think he went to, and I think he's running. I think he's trying to run for city council now. But like I knew him back then when all he had was he was just trying to do his father's advocacy. Mm-hmm. Nonprofit or whatever. That is who he is. He and at the end of the day, for me, and I'm looking at this in the lens of a black man. No matter how stoic and astute you can possibly be, there is just something about a white woman just being able to trigger you.
Yeah, highly trigger.
Yeah. Highly trigger with gestures. Not necessarily words, but gestures.
She bent over. That shit took the cake.
I ain't never seen that before.
That's
a whole new one.
But here's the thing. We saw it with Barbecue Becky.
Yes.
We saw it from the chick in Central Park.
Even the chicken in Texas when she came to the apartment.
Right, when she came to the apartment. It was just a boom. But take the one in Central Park, for example. The lady in Central Park. This man has literally got binoculars and is bird watching. Right?
That shit was funny.
Which is very rare for a black man to be a bird watcher. Back in the G when I was young, and if they called you a bird watcher, it was something different.
Yeah. Yeah, when I read it, I'm like, wait, what's going on with this story? Same thing. I was like, them two motherfuckers know one another. Something missing here.
Right. But I just think that, we as black men, just like every other demographic of people, we all have the micro triggers, the microaggressions, if you will. And if we're not careful, like somebody can set that shit off like that.
Mm. But also with that and thinking about his mom, do you think he just jumps into shit to create? Almost like a Kanye. Yeah. Just to create something out of nothing to an extent.
It's content.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's content.
You know, because
and that's the reality. I mean, I think that's the reality. The reality of it is that it's content, and we live in a society now where content is king.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like your podcast, your Instagram will not pop off unless you just have a whole pile of content that people like can't stop watching.
Because he did make videos after that talking about where's DL Hughley,
right?
Where is Steve Harvey? Where are these people here? Why are you not coming to me? This is a topic right now. Right. Why are you not? So it was, again, it's like trying to create that moment.
Right, exactly. You know. So, you know, and I think that was part of it. But I think he, you know, on a core level, has the greater good in mind.
You think him and a chick know one another?
I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't their first.
You think he'd banged before?
I would like to say that, but I don't want to say that. I don't.
She touched it in Miami. She touched it.
I think she knows him, but he didn't really know her.
No, yeah, she got the reputation about him. So she think about it. For her to be that comfortable and approach him, while he was on live like that, she must have heard some shit about him and got the courage to let me go approach him.
Let me be the one.
Let me be the one to approach him and try to fix this.
Offer the officer.
The whole time is that you heard about this cat, but you don't know how he get down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's when he showed how she got down. He got down. I was like, oh shit, I ain't seen this coming.
What was the reasoning? What triggered her to bend over and pull the dress up?
I think at that point, to be honest with you, I think at that point she was just like, you know, fuck this motherfucker. Like, it's just like you're fucking up my buzz.
Right.
You know, and I think she just wanted to do something.
She was on a few margaritas, huh?
Yeah. I think she just wanted to do something you know, drastic to create the moment.
So does that become the new fuck you black man gentrification thing?
He got the shirt.
Do white women begin bending over, showing their
because it looks bad.
Thongs now?
It looks bad.
You know?
It looks
in
bad.
the sense that she submitted to him and like, just come and get some margaritas, and he's just like, fuck you all.
Yeah,
right. Yo, blame me on this.
So it looks bad.
But you know, like I said, I just noticed that there are the triggers, and like for somebody like Byron Cole, his triggers are like 95% racial.
All right, so let's talk about the other people. Let's talk about Miss Daisy Ho.
Yeah, Miss Daisy Ho.
The middle finger.
Plantation Daisy Ho.
Let's talk about Native American Joe.
No, Pocahontas.
Because I'm beyond confused.
That dude trying to walk up on him. He's like, look, don't play with me.
The one he had, the last one, he what?
I stay up here. I don't give a fuck.
But I'm beyond confused with I get the Jazz Fest porch party.
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck the Indian come in? He was in full regalia.
Yeah,
I mean, that was some thought out shit.
That was a white guy.
He like the old boy who fucking they went to the state capitol.
But he had even shaved his chest hairs and shit. To, you know what I'm saying? He thought about this.
Blame
shit.
me on the Henny, bro.
He didn't wake up that morning and I'm dressed this way. He had been planning this shit for a week.
He planned it.
He had been planning this for a week. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what kind of party were they really having?
He was like, look, you want to have a jazz fest?
Like a get out party. Like a jazz fest get out party.
I'm about to be stressed up with an Indian outfit on, like a village people.
Oh, Lord.
Like I fucking stormed the Capitol. I'm about to see my shit and my white shit. Did the white guy with the black on look like, yeah. I'm like,
and then the Asian chick, and she was like the bodyguard chick who really didn't do anything, but just like, what did she say? But you know, there's a lot of characters in here, and this should either become some type of sitcom.
Bro, I'm telling you, if SNL parody this shit, we up. We up.
It has to become some type of sitcom or parody.
I'm gonna tell you this: if SNL did a parody of a girl in Shell met with the Gorilla Glue, they need to parody this shit.
Okay, because that gorilla shit, that gorilla shit. Oh my God. Gorilla shit glue was fucking hilarious. But we're not gonna talk about that.
Right.
We're not gonna talk about it, but back to the Indian shit. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But like, this is what people who do not know anything about the culture but feel like they can do whatever the fuck they want, you know, that's what they do.
Because your boy was dressed full regalia.
He was in full Native American regalia. Let's just put it. That's what, you know. He was a Native American regalia, and you know, like, which has nothing to do with Mardi Gras Indians, right? At all. What has, you know, but that's what, you know, that's what these people do. Yeah. Right. I call them the imports, right? You know, like I said, they come from all around the country, you know, in their, you know, posh spaces. They paid $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, which is actually about half of what they would pay in California
less than that,
to live, you know. And so because they paid that much money, they still have this thing about themselves, like, oh, this is free, this is love, I love this shit. You know, New Orleans is free. And
it's always making a caricature of black folk also.
Right.
They enjoy making a caricature of us. And they're not concerned about anything because all the money they're paying, the city council loves it.
But you know what?
Because what's the tax base? Really, what's the tax base?
Yeah, of course.
Properties.
Right.
We ain't got no other companies paying no fucking taxes.
Right, exactly.
Right. Even the big companies we got, like Folgers, ain't paying no taxes. So we need these people to, you know, the city, I should say, need these people to buy these houses for these exorbitant amounts. Right. Because they're going to pay these taxes.
Exactly.
Because the one thing I can tell
what
you.
What they doing for a living so I can get on and infiltrate?
Sucking dick.
Working on their phone and on OnlyFans.
Sucking dick.
No, I'm
sucking dick.
I don't get on my knees unless I pray. I don't know about it.
But there are a lot of tech though.
For the most part, they just want to emulate what they see.
For the moment.
Or what they think they see.
Or what they think they see for the moment. Mm-hmm. And so they still don't ingratiate themselves in the culture, but they, you know, they're just like, oh, okay, well, you know, these Indians, I see Indian suits. Okay. But you don't realize you're seeing black Mardi Gras Indian suits.
Black masking Indians is the correct term. Just to tell y'all, black masking Indians is the correct term.
Let me say it is going to be engines. The engines.
Buffalo engines jumping on fire. Engines jumping on fire.
Right. Engines of the nation.
Engines jumping on fire.
The Wawa creation.
You know, but we also, I don't, you know, man, this thing is so multi-layered. And we could talk about it for days, more than hours.
Absolutely.
I am this culture. I've been amongst this culture since I was in diapers, literally. We also have to recognize how we're, you know, I hate stuff, you know, this kind of shit I talk about on tour in the van, but I don't talk in public. You know, but
timestamp Drew.
You know, but honestly, man, we got to talk. We also have to realize how we are aiding the same things we're bitching and complaining about. Yeah. And let me give I'm going to just be frank. Let me give an example. So Broadside Theater started doing outdoor music and entertainment with the pandemic. As of recently, the last several weeks, they've been doing Second Line Sundays. You got the Black Social Aid and Pleasure Clubs with a brass band performing on stage and second lining. Okay. But guess who their target audience is? Guess who their target population is and always has been? White folk. So in actuality, it's the bamboozlement because we're on stage perform. It's like blackface. We're performing for them. You know, oh, look at
but
fuck it makes me upset because
I'm talking my bad. I'm sorry. But we've talked about this at length because what actually fueled the bounce movement for Big Frida, Katie Red,
white people,
her bringing them white girls on stage.
I'm telling you,
bringing them white girls on stage.
Big Frida and Katie Red's been performing in sex.
To be honest, that is the crowd for any concert.
Let me go back. Katie Red used to perform when I was band director at Sarah T. Reed. I used to host talent shows. Katie Red, Partners in Crime, in Fifth Ward Weeby, who was my student.
We went to Reed.
So
that was my student. So used to be my key performers.
Just to put it into perspective.
But it was when they started letting them white girls come on stage and start twerking. Suddenly it's in Vanity Fair and shit.
Who are paying for the tickets?
White folks.
Exactly. So your crowd is literally the white folks who are like the same people who are like
who we're bitching about.
Like, exactly.
That's the only ones buying tickets.
The niggas who buying tickets are the bitches who are Caucasian. Just put it in perspective.
I'm gonna tell you this: they always got that white girl who come on stage who fucking clack her cheeks. No, not no Karen. Who clack her booty like a black chick. She been running black girls in the hood for 6 months, and she figured out how to fucking get that rhythm.
No,
and she
didn't like hang in the black neighborhoods for 6 months. Those are the ones who were born in those black neighborhoods.
No.
No, those are the ones who are black neighborhoods.
They are a white girl been the DJ. She sing like a black girl.
They are the Dalmatians, as we like to call them.
I'm telling you right now,
Nicole, they are a white girl. She fucking shake her ass, move, and rhythm the timing of a black girl.
I'm dealing with a white chick right now who literally argued me down about New Orleans lingo, about the New Orleans slang, telling me that I'm fucking wrong about New Orleans slang because she's from New York. She's from New York telling me I'm fucking wrong about New Orleans slang, but she had the privilege to say that she's right. She's telling me she never heard some shit like that, but bitch, you not from New Orleans, okay? All right? You all right? I'm telling you what it is. And she telling me I'm wrong.
I wonder what she thought about Byron Cole's rant.
I'm telling you, she telling me I'm wrong.
Because, like...
about my culture. Yeah. A motherfucker who from New York telling me wrong. Telling me I'm wrong about my culture. Because she been here for 2-3 years. Like, fuck you, bitch. Nah, that's not how it go. I'm sorry. Nah, bitch.
Really, it's all...
Nah.
Really, it's all become just like a big... it's all become a big Instagram story. Mm-hmm. But again, in all truth, the same people that we're kind of bitching about that's like pushing us out our own neighborhoods are the same people who we're actually depending upon to buy the tickets for the shows, whether it's at Tipitina's or Broadside or
it's
Maison.
Double consciousness.
Yeah, they're the ones that's buying. They're the ones who are going to book us for their weddings.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're the ones who are going to book us for their porch parties and their backyard
and they're
parties.
They're going to put their rules and all kind of bullshit on top of it.
And at the same time, we're putting ourselves in a cultural position where we're either performing for them or we're giving them the secret. Because like the Indians was always a secret thing. Yeah. I grew up amongst this shit and couldn't get an Indian practice. Whereas now, the shit is open to the public. Oh my God. You got people doing beating parties. Right. You got people teaching all the other clubs these new feminine dance, what they call them, the Mardi Gras, all these female clubs and stuff, who now use Mardi Gras Indian beading techniques and stuff for their, but they got Mardi Gras Indians that's teaching them how to do it.
It's crazy.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
Go with the bounce music.
It's crazy.
Once Black and Mild did a video on Jeans and show how we do bounce music, everybody doing bounce music, and they're not coming down here to get bounce produced.
But I tell you, I think the pivot for that whole bounce movement and just like, just white culture. Appreciating themselves. No, this was before Drake. I think it was one recording. I think it was one recording. It was a recording of this band Galactic. And Galactic, they were always, they always were trying to like find out what makes New Orleans New Orleans. And that's one thing I can commend about them because they're like they're into showcasing it. It's not a thing of go on and they're just a total exploitation because it's like, no, we'll take you on tour, we'll do this, because we like this music, so we want you to like that type of thing. Big Freedia got on one of their records, right, and from that point on, they brought him on tour. And that type of thing.
Her.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah.
Please
Friday.
Don't
put that
on my
Big Friday.
Don't put what I just did on camera.
What you say, Big One?
My old coworker, her brother called him Big Friday.
But and matter of fact, and I didn't have that moment until we were doing the band that I played with, Big Sam's Funky Nation. Yeah. So we were in Austin for South by Southwest one year. And so there was a band that went on before us from Australia. Oh, you guys are from New Orleans, eh? It was like, yeah, from New Orleans. Oh, do you guys know Big Freedia? He's like, how you know Big Freedia? But it was just like, oh no, she just did the music festival in Melbourne, and there's 100,000 people there. Okay. Then at that point I knew, okay, if you got twerking, white, black, red, brown, yellow on stage twerking in front of 100,000 people, that's rap. It's done. So it's like, we already know that it's going to be just totally bought up by white culture because they paid them. They paid the ticket fee. They paid the fee of admission.
So I've been lingering this question for a long time, and I'll use this platform to ask it. What do you think would happen to both New Orleans jazz and jazz in general when there becomes the Big Frida of jazz?
Ooh, okay.
That's a big question right there.
What's it, Ric Flair?
Man, that's a big
Ask that question one more time.
So I've been lingering this question for a pretty long time, and because again, like we just mentioned, knowing the history of bounce in New Orleans, knowing the history of gay bounce in New Orleans, knowing that Katie Red, back when I was a band director at Reed, used to perform at my talent shows, knowing Sissy Noby and what's the one that was killed with the
Messy Maya.
Messy Maya. You look at all of these folk who were queer. Phenomenal, queer and phenomenal in what they did within the bounce genre. Who in whatever ways were overlooked, disappeared, mysteriously died. You see what I'm saying? And then we have Big Frida, who's become the queen of bounce. So with that, the question that I have been pondering for a long time quietly is, what would happen to New Orleans jazz and jazz in general when there becomes, if there were to become, the Big Frida of jazz?
There will be a total exploitation of said Big Frida of jazz. One thing that I think that just especially when it comes to New Orleans and the historical culture that is, New Orleans jazz, so to speak, I think we are literally in a situation whereas that's the reason why jazz for the most part has died. Because there is no Big Frida. Because
if you go back to like the Dewdrop Inn, if you go back to the clubs up and down Jackson Avenue in New Orleans, there was always a large population of queer jazz singers, performers, and front folk, which has disappeared from the scene.
No way.
So if there was suddenly a queer-based jazz musician, singer, whatever you want to call it, would that thus propel jazz in the same ways that bounce has been propelled, and do the same for those people who work within that genre?
Yes and no.
Anyway, I was about to say at this point, no, because jazz in and of itself is an archaic music, and I fought with this idea for a long time because I was like, man, look, as long as there's motherfuckers that's like just trying to, stretch the limits and all that stuff of the music, then the music pretty much will never die. It's just that we're not going to be playing the same shit that grandparents played,
I'm telling you, I come from a school, like I graduated from Berkeley College of Music. All right. I'm telling you for a fact that you got white people who are playing this fucking music by black people. They don't even know. They can't fathom the idea that it came from black people. Like it doesn't matter. It's just like, well, I'm playing this song because it's from John Mayer. Okay, it's crazy. It's mind-boggling that it doesn't even match up.
I found that out on the road actually, because like with us on the road, we're just like literally in the jam band, the rock band scene, like that type of thing. And to hear the Black Crowes, do a version of is it Sam Cooke joint? Hey baby, here I am, I'm a man.
Man, I love that song.
That's
I can
Sam
give
Cooke.
you what you want.
Sam Cooke, yeah, Sam Cooke.
What I need.
But for everybody, every time, because we started playing it, but everybody who heard the song was like, I've never heard that version before. and we're like, that's the original version.
Yeah.
You know,
you can't buy originals out here.
You know, that's the original version. And so now I'm in that position. I was like, man, it's just it's a reappropriation that is just very subtle. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just think that in order for jazz to prevail, in order for all those things to prevail in that standard, that's just, you know, you're gonna have to have a big freedom. Mm-hmm. A character who is not necessarily gay, but is like who is animated, who is out there flamboyant.
So is that the new?
Sometimes somewhat quite flagrant.
It's crazy how it's crazy how the black or how the gay male in general have taken over. Mm-hmm. The gay male thing has taken over a lot of things compared to because just a regular voice and things.
Because they have the both that masculine and feminine energy.
It's bullshit.
I mean, well, we look at it as bullshit, but it's both a masculine and feminine energy. So it's like you're masculine enough,
right,
for men to take notice, but you're feminine enough for females to take notice.
And you don't create any sense of fear.
It's bullshit.
Or intimidation.
As in somebody like
bullshit.
As in somebody like Kevin Samuels.
But it takes so much. It takes so much away from being black.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like the things that has happened with gay culture has prevailed far much faster than anything that has anything to do with black culture in general.
Well, in your same logic, in your same logic, is the same thing for mixed children.
Okay.
You know, because if you think about it, like some of the most celebrated, you know, people in sports and entertainment and everything else, they're all mixed kids.
But my wife and I have been having this. Then I'm thinking about wife. I'm having the head out. Yeah. We can do part 2. But my wife and I have been having this conversation because this weekend, you know, we were talking about just like you know we've gone through this year of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I think the that first 12 months for all of us, I think it was more of a survival deal. Mm-hmm. I think now that things are starting to open up slightly, I think some of us are in that space of like really like what's next, evaluating like who am I really, exactly. Or where do I want to be,
exactly.
And I'm in that space myself,
yeah.
You know, and we were talking about the fact of like, I was like, you know, what is it with me where I think spaces or places or things that I should have been able to accomplish, should be accomplishing, doesn't seem to be happening for me. Mm-hmm. I seem to almost rub people the wrong way. And she was like, you don't rub people the wrong way. She's like, think about it. You are highly and hyper masculine. Uh-huh. You're 6'2". Mm-hmm. You're dark skinned. Mm-hmm. You're chocolate. Everything. People don't know if you play football, basketball. The last thing somebody would think that you did was a jazz trumpeter. Yeah. Because of your physique. You know what I'm saying? They're like, this dude play football, he play basketball. He nothing says that you're a jazz musician.
Right.
So with that, you're intimidating.
Exactly.
You intimidate people.
Simply because you're a black male first.
Yeah. Black male, hot, well-spoken.
Tall as fuck.
Yeah. You know, rather built, not out of shape, etc.
Exactly.
You know, so, because we, like, our kids play soccer. Okay. So we're the only black family on the soccer team. Mm-hmm. And normally I'm the only black man on the sideline. Yeah. You know, and my wife always talks about how I intimidate the coach. I intimidate the other family members.
It's critical.
You know,
okay.
But then she's like, think about it. Those same intimidation factors come into play with you as a professor, as an academic professional, and as a musician.
Okay.
Because you don't fit the narrative. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like this whole thing of like, think about like Offbeat, all the different magazines and stuff like that. It's like, why they never come to you? Why does nobody ever fucking come to you for any? You're the only person of your generation with a fucking PhD. And nobody comes to you.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, so, but yet they troll you on social media and take all your shit.
Exactly.
But they don't come to you directly.
Right.
And it's like, what's the deal? My wife's a realist. You know, she's like, the deal is that you fucking intimidate them.
Right.
They don't want to have a conversation with you.
With a strong black man.
Because you know your shit.
Smart. You just come with too much for somebody to be like, you know, because it's crazy for America to think that like, oh damn, there's an intelligent black man that know what the fuck he's talking about. Like we can't have this guy on camera because he know what he talking about.
And he's securing himself.
Right.
There's no femininity that he's given.
We can't have security as African Americans because it doesn't fit the agenda of what we're trying to make.
There's no ambiguity.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a man's man. There's no ambiguity
this
there.
This nigga is too smart for television, okay? for us to put him on there. So, okay, exactly. All right, then. He's not fucking intimidating, but he's intimidating. Okay, but okay.
Of course.
You know, but we have, and those are the things that make me think of like, what would happen if we suddenly had the big Frida of New Orleans jazz?
Right.
Because that type of, you know, that persona creates this space of ambiguity. Mm-hmm. Nobody's afraid. Yeah. Everybody's comfortable. You know what I'm saying? And again, you're not in fear. Right. And the greatest thing that America fears is the black man. That's and suddenly that is not there.
How much bullshit is that?
But it's...
How much bullshit is that? The fact that you have to downplay who you are as a black male to become accessible to fucking society. And
that's the end of the end conversation with my wife and I was like, well, dude, I guess you might as well continue doing what you're doing and just recognize that you're never gonna be that super popular local person because there ain't no bending or shaping. You are who you are. You're not gonna pop up with a fucking skirt on next St. Patrick's Day.
And then we can't even get to the idea of a black woman because that's different. That changes the whole idea of that, because like it's okay to accept like masculinity in certain cases, but when it comes to like black women, we're bitches, we're like all kind of things, but we're speaking truth, but because it's not done in a certain way, we can't be accepted. But it's okay. But like we have certain acceptances for males, but even black males have to go through certain fucking catapults to even be heard. And then you have to come to a black woman, and it's just like, oh well, she's a bitch. She got attitude. She got all this shit, other shit coming with her. But it's just like we can't even hear her because we feel like we have all this other shit to get through. So it's just dumb.
You open up Pandora's box, baby. You're getting a little.
It's just so like, so that's why I choose to just be quiet, because it's just like I'm gonna just make my moves in silence, and then when you find me, bitch, you gonna find me. That's what it is. Period. Dot. Okay, so when I don't say shit about what the fuck going on in my corner, don't come looking for me when I'm a fucking billionaire on the corner of $10 and I own everything. Fuck you, okay? Because when I start talking, you're gonna be fucking mad at what the fuck I'm saying, bitch. Because you have no choice but to listen to what the fuck I got to say. But anyway, that's another conversation.
That's another conversation.
But that's I promise you, I'm gonna be a billionaire. Right. I promise you, gonna fucking hear what I got to say. But until then, I'm gonna just chill out.
All right.
I'm gonna just chill out.
You got an editing job out this fucking world.
We're gonna continue this discussion, but I just thought that this video that we saw last week I think it's just indicative of the conversations that we need to have, in general. So, we're gonna continue the discussion. I'm gonna find a way to continue this shit.
I think it's gonna be. I haven't. I don't read the paper or watch the news or whatever, but I think it's gonna be interesting now that the story has gone to the local media and there's been a story written about it. I personally think it now will become another tall tale in the long list of caricaturized events and situations of the city, because I think we've now long lost what could have been the positive outcomes for all parties, for both the gentrifiers, the people coming in, the people trying to be allies and support the culture, and the people, black folk who are dealing with the gentrifiers in their neighborhood. And strangely, in closing, I think what's really weird about it is that, white folk talk about gentrification, they understand gentrification, et cetera, but white folk ain't never been gentrified.
Of course.
So in actuality, you don't understand it. Right. So
And the people who gentrify don't even realize that they're gentrifying. They just come in. Like, that's the part that fucked me up. Like you don't even know that you hear gentrifying and you gentrifying. But all right, we gonna leave that.
Because they don't see it as gentrifying. They see it as being allies. They see it as being allies.
You just here for college, but okay.
They're being allies. They don't see gentrification.
Like
they're
I said,
allies.
we can, you know, and that's why I believe that we can have this conversation like 4 years on end. You know, so. Yeah, I got to end it here because now we're in Joe Rogan land, and you know, Joe Rogan podcast be like 3 hours and shit. Yeah, I be like, come on, man, like, fuck, I can't watch this shit, man. Like, you know, who has 3 hours to watch this shit?
Whoever watched the Avengers, fuck you, okay? You got time, bitch. You watch the Avengers, all right?
Yeah, so until next time, I'm Drew.
Peace.
I'm the Professor Drew Bayham. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
Peace out.
Yeah.